So here we go, 9-5. We're starting our little walk through chapter 9. We were chatting it up off camera here of what we're doing here. Chapter 9 deals with different statistics, a lot of graphs, plotting data, interpreting data in a wide variety of ways, representing it in different ways here. And we're only going to do 3 lessons here. We're starting at 9-5, page 300 and 301. Lots of words on these 2 pages. So we're going to go through the 4 terms here. We covered all these last year: mean, median, mode, and range. And I'm going to, for the moment, just use this data up here. So what we got here, it looks like days of the week: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Gloria doing sit-ups. Gloria is tracking her sit-ups that she does each day here. So first thing I'm going to do is just write, I'm going to recreate the graph here. So day, number of sit-ups. And again, you're going to want to recreate the graph yourself because we're going to go through everything. I'm going to keep referring back to this graph. So get the graph in your notes: Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And it looks like she did 28 on Sunday, 30 on Monday, 30 on Tuesday, 37 on Wednesday, 35 on Thursday, 40 on Friday, and 45 on Saturday. If you really want to table it up, totally optional here. I'm only doing it because I can do it pretty fast, but there you go. Now it's a nice table if you want, so whatever you want. But recreate the information. So we're going to go through each of the 4 things, and then we're going to circle back to this table here to answer the question. So first up, 4 terms here. So we're going to start with the range. The range is always the easiest of the 4 to remember, probably because it starts with R, and if you know what the word range means, it's helpful. But the range is the difference between the greatest value and the smallest value. So typically when you're doing these here, one of the first things you'll want to do is rewrite all your data in order from least to greatest. So this is pretty close here. I'm going to do it anyway. 30, and we got 35, 37, 40, and 45. But one of the first things you're always going to want to do with any of this stuff here is you're going to want to rewrite the data in order from least to greatest. And you'll see why, as we go through the 4 terms, why that's a good strategy and the way you should go about doing it here. But for the range here, again, if you do put them all in order, least to greatest, it should be very easy then to find your greatest and smallest value. So the greatest value, of course, is 45, and my smallest value is 28. So the range of my data, just take my greatest value, which was 45, and then I subtract my largest or smallest value, which is 28. 45 minus 28 is 17. And that's my range right there. There's my range. So I said, what's the range of this data? You should say 17. The greatest, subtract the least, a range of 17. Okay. The median. The median is the middle number of the data set. And again, I'm going to go through this a little bit here so you're clear on that. but all it is the middle number. And once again, if you arrange everything in order from least to greatest, it's easy to find. So what I see here is I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, when there's an odd number of values, the median's very easy to find. The median's going to be right there. That's going to be my median because I got 1, 2, 3 values that are less than it and 1, 2, 3 values that are greater than it. The median for this data set is 35. That's the middle number. Agreed? All you need to do is, however you want to do it, just kind of find the middle, and there should be the same number of values on each side. Now, I'm going to rewrite that, just an example here. I'm not going to write it all. I'm just going to say 30, 35, 38, and 40. And find the median. Well, when there's an even number, all right, you're going to have to do a little bit of work. But my median is, again, still the middle, but there is no middle number. Basically, to find the median here, I would need to know what is in between these two numbers here. Because there's no official middle number. When there's an even number, you're going to have to find it on yourself. So how do I do it here? A couple different ways. You could look at it and just realize it's 36 and a half. And realize it's 1 and 1/2 greater than this. It's also 1 and 1/2 less than that. But you can also just add the two numbers together. So 35, that gives me 73. You just take your two middle numbers that are in the middle here, add them up, and then divide by 2, which would give you your 36. You could say 36.5, that's fine, 36 and 1/2. But if I wanted the median here, again, it's up to you. You can either represent it that way or that way. Doesn't matter. But that is the median in this case here for this data set. So if there's an odd number, again, you don't have anything to do. It'll just be there right there for you, smack dab in the middle. But if there's an even number, basically you need to find the average of the two numbers in the middle, or however you want to think about it there. And to do that, you can just add them up, divide by 2. You may be able to just figure it out in your head. If I had, just for example, if this was my data set here, 30, 35, 35, and 40, what would my median be? 35, right. And again, it's officially this 35 here, but 35 plus 35 is 70. 70 divided by 2 is 35. So could very well be that your median on even number is both those numbers. It just depends kind of how your data falls here. But however you want to think about it, median is the middle number. Okay? Okay. The mean. The mean is the average of the data set. And the mean takes the most time to find. So getting them in order from least to greatest is very helpful to find the range, the median, and the mode. Doesn't really help you a whole lot for the mean though. So to find the average of something, if you don't know how to do it, you need to do two things. One, add all the values in the data set. So in this case here, going up, basically I need to probably get pen and paper. 28 plus 30 plus 30 plus 37 plus 35 plus 40 plus 45. If I add all those up here, again, just go into the book for the moment, that should equal 245. But however many values there are, you need to add them all up. So you can see some of our examples over here. Again, will it take forever to add these up? No. Will it take a little bit of time? Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time. But first thing you do is add up all the values in the data set. There were 7 values. I add all 7 of them. I get a sum of 245. Second thing you do, divide that number, or I guess I could say your sum, I mean 245 is when I say that number, or divide the sum by the number of data points. And when I say the number of data points, I'm saying how many numbers did we add up here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 data points. I added 7 values. Getting all down. Lots of notes here.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Right, there's a lot, right. So now I have my 2 pieces of information. I need to find the mean. I need to know how many numbers there were. There were 7. And then I need to know what they add up to, which was 245. So those are the 2 things I need to know to find the mean. So got to be able to add fluently and then solve a division problem. 21, 3, 5, and 5. There it is there. You can certainly get a fraction or decimal for your mean. By all means, that's very much on the table here. By all means, you can get a fraction or decimal. You had fractions or decimals last year. When you figured out the mean, you can represent it either way. I don't care. Represent it with a fraction, represent it with a decimal, whatever floats your boat. If you're using a fraction, make sure it's a simplified fraction. Yes. But there's my mean. My mean is 35 in this case here for the data set. Okay? Last one, the mode. I'm just going to write over here because I got a little room left. The mode. So the mode is the value that occurs most frequently in the data set. So I'm just going to rewrite my numbers here. 35, 37, 40, and 45. So is there a value that appears more frequently than any other in the data set?
Yes.
Yes. Which number? Right. 30. 30 appears twice. All the other numbers only appear once. Therefore, I would say the mode of this data set is 30. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a couple more examples of mode here. So I'm going to create another data set here, just making numbers up here.
What if there is no mode?
I'm going to go through all that here in a minute. So, this case here, this new numbers I made up here, is there a value that appears more frequently than any other?
Yeah, 34.
Right. So in this case here, I have 2 modes. I would say the modes are both of them because both of these appear more frequently than any other value here.
3 of one and 2 of the other, then the one that has more is the mode.
Right. If I had one that had 3 and another had 2, well then there would only be one mode, the one that has 3 values. It's the value that appears most frequently. In case of a tie, then there's more than one mode. Okay? So there could be more than one mode. One more example here. 28, 30, 33, 38, 42. In this case here, right, if I said what's the mode, there's no mode. No value appears any more frequently. They all appear once. Therefore, there's no mode in this example here. So mode is kind of a little different here, where there could be one mode, there could be more than one mode, or there could be 0 modes, just depending on what your data set includes. But I've kind of shown you all the different scenarios here where one mode, one value appears more frequently than the others. There could be 2 or more modes. I mean, let's be realistic here. In 6th grade, we're not going to have like 8 modes or something like this here. Don't get too bent out of shape about this. Possibly could be 2 at most. Possibly could be 0 though. So again, you're not going to deal with crazy long data sets here. Plus, we're doing it by hand, so don't get. But I'm just saying the mode again. It's could be one, could be more than one, or it could be none. The others are much more defined. The range is the difference from the greatest to the least. The median is the middle number. The mean is the average. So there's no questions about those there. Range, probably the easiest of the three, but trying to keep track of the mean, the median, and the mode, which one's which, is always a little bit of a challenge, just because they all start with an M. None of them are real clear. Their words don't really mean a lot to you. You know, range is one. The range, you can understand the range, like, how far do you throw a ball? What's your range type? So, range is easy to understand, but the mean, median, and mode, you're just going to have to make sure that whatever you got to do to make sure you understand which one's which. That's on you guys here to try and keep track of that stuff there, whatever you got to do. But that's really what we got here. There's our four things. So now let's go through and see what you guys can do with some examples. Yo.
Gonna be on time for deer time.
Maybe. We'll do the best we can. We'll have some deer time. All right. So let's look at number 1 over here. Anna's reading test scores. Find the mean, median, mode, and range for the data here. You guys should be able to do it on your own. So there they are. Find all 4.
Holy crap, she sucks. She got F, 2 E's.
And then an H.
Okay, bud. Okay, and you're talking.
10, 90, 70, and 60. So there you go. Find all 4. Range, median, mean, and mode. You can figure them out in any order you wish.
I have so much vocab, it takes up a lot of room.
I do.
Yep.
I'm only on half the page. Great. Median.
I'll give you a couple minutes here.
I should have wrote it in least degree, but I guess I
But you didn't.
So I'm gonna rewrite it.
I don't have an erase on my pencil, so I can't undo anything. My
So-
graphs are gonna be a little bit weird this semester. Not really
We're
graphs.
making a graph.
Holy crap.
Holy crap.
Holy broccoli. Holy moly, look at that coin.
So, if you were me, what would you do first?
Write
Write
out
the
the
rate.
write out the
Write them
values.
from least to greatest.
That's exactly what I would do first. You should rewrite your data in order from least to greatest first. So that's the first thing I'm going to do here. And once it's in this order, again, this will definitely help you find the median easier, the mode easier, and the range easier. Now with 5 data points, I'm not saying it's that difficult, but still, I mean, if we had 20 pieces of data, you would want to reorder all your data in a sequential manner to make it much easier on yourself. So it's a good habit to get into this here. That when you're dealing with this concept, it should always just be your first step, whether it's 5, 10, 20, it doesn't matter how much data there is, but the more there is, the harder it is to keep track of everything in your head, so. Okay. All right. So I want the range, the median, the mean, and the mode. And again, I always, when I'm doing this type of work, I always figure them out in this exact same order. It helps me keep track of what I'm doing. So you can make your own choice. I mean, the book says mean, median, mode, range. So I just I just always do it this way. Always. It's just, and it helps me keep track of what I'm doing. That if I always do it in the same order. So Right, so you may be picking a different order, but just honestly, I think it's a lot easier to keep track of this stuff if you always do it and say it in the same order here instead of jumping all over the place and doing it. Okay, so the range. Tell me how I can find the range and what's my range, Savannah?
Okay, so your range is 170.
Subtract them. But you got the right numbers there. You just added them.
Wow. Still like 70.
110 minus 60. Because I take my biggest value, which is 110, subtract my smallest value, which is 60. $50. There's my range right there. So that's my range, 110 minus 60. Greatest value, subtract smallest value, 50. Median is Sierra,
That's not right.
70.
70. Right. Median, middle value, odd number, no work necessary. It's right there in the middle. The mean, Sig,
80.
how'd you get it?
I added up all the numbers.
Right.
Equaled 400. And
Right.
I divided it by 5. And
Perfect.
that equals 80.
Yep. Right. So first thing you'd want to do, add up the 5 values. Their sum is 400, and then divide by however many values there were. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 400 divided by 5 means the mean, or the average, is 80. And then the mode, Damien,
Go 70.
70. Right. The number that appears more frequently than any other, that happens to be 70. 70 appears twice. Last thing we'll look at here, once again, this time they don't want the range. They just want mean, median, and mode. But they ask about this, tell which measure is most useful for describing the data. Now, you'll have a couple questions, 3 and 4, the same deal. They want which measure is most useful to describe the data, explain why. And what they're saying here, this is not something, this question specifically, I will not ask you on the quiz, but still, we'll go through and talk about it. So here's what we got. Number 3 says Ray scored 15, 7, 5, 3, 9, and 15 points in 6 basketball games. He wants to show that he is a valuable player. So first thing we're going to do in number 3 is figure out the mean, the median, and the mode. So go for it. Figure out the mean, the median, and the mode for Ray's scores.
What
There.
number is that?
Number 3.
Alright.
Okay. And then we'll talk about which one is most useful to describe the data and why.
Over the mean.
Okay. The
Probably
mean.
the mean because it's the most average place.
I think
Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But there's his scores, 15, 7, 5, 3, 9, and 15. What's the mean, the median, and the mode? Shouldn't take too long to figure this out. And again, my hope would be the first thing you would do is reorganize your data.
Alright.
And again, they only want the mean, the median, the mode this time. So mean, of course, is the average, median's the middle number, mode is the data that appears most frequently.
Wait. What? Oh.
What? What is it?
Um,
we have to write like about the most useful?
We'll talk, yeah, I'm gonna go through that in
data
just a second.
In our homework mode?
Yeah, just a brief sentence here. It's interpreting your data and trying to prove a point. And again, I'll explain this in a second. All right, the mean. Dom, what do we got for a mean?
9.
Yes. What?
You're hot.
Yeah. Right, that's the average. Add them all up, divide by 6. 54 divided by 6 is 9. The median. Brooke.
8.
8, right. This time we have an even number. So my median is going to be somewhere between 7 and 9. Again, you could probably imagine what's between 7 and 9, but if you couldn't, 7 plus 9 is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. That's my median. So even number. And then the mode, Jackson,
15.
15. So Ray here has 3 different scores he can take to his coach and go, Coach, because what does he want to do? He wants to show that he's a valuable player.
Mode.
So of these 3 things here, what should he bring to the coach and say, Coach, because of this, look at how great I am?
The mode.
Yeah,
because
he wants to use the mode.
It's how many times.
Because if you're trying to say, well, I'm a valuable player, you know, I score 15 more points more frequently than any other score, this is the number he's going to want to use to make his case. Because 15 is bigger than 9 or 8. So he would want to make a case to use the mode to show why he's a valuable player. Because that's the greatest number. You want to show that you're the best or something, right? And again, this leads into, we're not going to really go into it, but you can see how data can be misleading sometimes, right? Because what if he scored 30, 30, 0, 1, and 2?
This guy must be good at shooting.
And then he would go, Mode, look at me, I scored 30 more often than anything else here, but at the same time, without digging deeper into the data here, you wouldn't recognize, you know, his average is like 6 points or something, right? But we're trying to make Ray's case here. Why is he a valuable player? Because his mode is 15 here. I think that's about all we need to do here. So there's only 5 questions in the homework. 1 and 2, find the mean, median, mode, and range. 3 and 4 is just like what we did, the mean, median, and mode. Make a little general statement about which of the data points is most useful for whatever they're trying to prove in your mind. And then number 5 talks about if you remove data, how does it impact the rest of the data? So takes a little while. You'll most likely need to do it on another sheet of paper, the homework today. Just to show all your work. You're going to have a hard time showing your work here in this amount of space. So. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Well then, bada bing, bada boom.